Dropped onto a remote, uncharted island with nothing but his wits, Logan faces the ultimate test of human endurance. He has only 3 days to conquer this unforgiving wilderness before it completely breaks him. And though he screams in triumph against the roaring ocean, celebrating a fleeting victory, he knows that in this paradise, joy is short-lived and the true nightmare has only just begun. The relentless ocean whispers promises of death as Logan stands isolated on the desolate shoreline. With only a spear gun and raw determination, he prepares to wage a silent war against time, knowing the island will show no mercy to those who dare to challenge its absolute dominion. To survive this impending doom, Logan kneels on the sand to inventory his minimal gear. He clutches his survival knife, fully aware that a single miscalculation before darkness falls will leave him completely defenseless against the swarms of biting insects. With the bugs already gathering, he shifts his focus to the most immediate threats, water and fire. Forcing himself to abandon all modern comforts, Logan mentally prepares for the grueling physical labor required to secure these basic necessities. As he scours the shoreline for resources, a stroke of luck interrupts his desperate search. Logan spots a hollowed-out piece of driftwood washed up on the sand. Realizing this unexpected container could be the key to storing precious fresh water. But hope is a fragile thing out here. When Logan cracks open a green coconut expecting a life-saving drink, he finds it completely hollow and dry. This devastating setback serves as a brutal reminder of the island's unforgiving nature. Refusing to let dehydration break his spirit, Logan turns his attention to a massive pile of washed-up debris. What once seemed like useless ocean garbage is now a literal treasure trove, offering the raw materials he desperately needs to craft tools and survive. Sifting through the massive pile of washed-up ocean debris, Logan refuses to let the disappointment of a dry coconut break his spirit. He drags a heavy bamboo pole across the burning sand, searching for any tool that might secure his survival before the blistering sun drains his strength. With the salvaged bamboo now in hand, Logan begins trimming the thick stalk using his survival knife. He fashions a makeshift tool with methodical precision, knowing that a single slip of the blade could cause a debilitating injury with no help in sight. Once his tools are prepared, he shifts his focus back to the immediate threat of dehydration, chopping the top off another green coconut. Each strike carries the weight of mounting anxiety, as finding another dry shell would deal a crushing psychological blow. This time his efforts pay off as sweet, life-giving coconut water flows from the split fruit. A fresh liquid revitalizes his exhausted body, providing a fleeting moment of relief. But he knows this triumph is short-lived with a cold night looming ahead. To maximize this precious find, Logan uses his blade to pry open the coconut and harvest its nutrient-rich flesh. He understands that physical stamina is his most valuable currency, and every single calorie counts when waging this solitary war against nature. With his hunger temporarily satisfied, he turns his attention to securing warmth, gathering dry coconut husks from the nearby debris. Recognizing these fibrous husks as ideal tinder, he meticulously collects the best pieces to prepare for his next monumental challenge. Using the dry fibers as his target, Logan begins scraping a bamboo stick against a wooden log to generate friction. Channels his remaining strength into the repetitive motion, desperately hoping to coax a glowing ember from the stubborn raw wood. While waiting for a spark, he digs into the warm sand with his bare hands to construct a protective fire pit. As the afternoon light begins to fade, the pressure intensifies to secure this hearth before darkness completely blankets the island. The fading tropical sun casts long, ominous shadows across the desolate beach, signaling the approach of a freezing night. Logan meticulously prepares his tinder from dry coconut husks, knowing this fragile nest of fibers is his only shield against the dark. Every second is a high-stakes gamble against nature. With his tinder ready, Logan begins the grueling process of friction-based fire-making, vigorously scraping a long bamboo stick against a wooden log. This exhausting, repetitive motion drains his physical strength rapidly under the relentless sun, testing the absolute limits of his survival resolve. Just as a tiny, promising ember begins to form, disaster strikes when his crucial friction tool suddenly snaps in half. Logan stares down at the broken wood in sheer frustration, realizing that nature demands absolute perfection and leaves zero margin for error. Refusing to let defeat consume him, Logan adapts his strategy by sharpening the bamboo and switching to highly flammable coconut husk. After hours of agonizing failure, his persistence pays off as a brilliant golden flame finally erupts, marking a vital psychological victory. To sustain this hard-won life source, Logan piles dry coconut shells into his sand fire pit, securing a steady fuel supply for the night. With his immediate survival guaranteed, his strategy shifts from desperate defense to proactive exploration of the surrounding ocean. Armed with a spear gun, Logan dives into the water to hunt for fresh seafood. But his hopes are instantly shattered when the high-tension rubber band snaps with a sharp crack. This unexpected mechanical failure leaves him vulnerable in an unforgiving marine territory. Undeterred by this sudden setback, Logan pulls the snapped rubber band tight and ties a crude knot to salvage his only weapon. Using raw ingenuity to patch the broken gear, he prepares to dive back in, knowing this temporary fix must hold. Emerging from the unforgiving ocean with his makeshift weapon, Logan returns to a campsite that offers no true sanctuary. A massive jungle spider now creeps along his mesh tent, shattering any illusion of safety and proving that the island's wild. Silent predators are always watching, ready to reclaim their territory. Stealing his nerves, Logan carefully coaxes the giant arachnid onto the sand, forcing it away from his fragile shelter. Every encounter in this unforgiving wilderness demands absolute vigilance, as a single venomous bite could instantly end his survival journey, turning his desperate bid for refuge into a lethal trap. The island's threats are not just external, they begin to fester from within. As Logan sits on the damp shoreline holding a freshly cracked coconut, a sudden debilitating illness takes hold of his body, transforming the simple task of gathering sustenance into an agonizing battle against physical exhaustion. Compounding his physical misery, the relentless environment strikes another blow as the high tide begins to creep closer to his camp. Logan paces along the shrinking shoreline, watching the rising ocean threaten to swallow his hard-won fire pit and flood his shelter, forcing a critical decision to relocate. Summoning his remaining strength, Logan gathers heavy driftwood and rocks to fortify a new elevated campsite away from the encroaching waves. Fighting through feverish weakness, he races against the setting sun, knowing that losing his fire source now would leave him completely vulnerable to the freezing tropical night. Darkness finally consumes the beach. Logan speaks directly to the camera, illuminated only by a harsh flashlight beam. Having prepared a meager, poorly filleted fish over the dying embers, he confronts the grim reality of his failing health and the desperate, vital need for substantial nourishment tomorrow. Through the harsh glare of his flashlight, Logan stares down at a tiny, pathetic sliver of raw fish. This meager portion is his only defense against the creeping starvation threatening to break his spirit. A grim reminder of how fragile his existence on this isolated beach has truly become. As the deep darkness of night settles in, a violent fever begins to ravage Logan's body, sending sudden hot and cold flushes through his shivering frame. He desperately struggles to revive the dying embers of his campfire, knowing that losing this warmth would mean surrendering to the freezing, unforgiving tropical night. Unable to withstand the biting cold and the relentless swarm of mosquitoes outside, Logan retreats into the fragile safety of his mesh tent. He lies awake in the dark, listening to the hostile wilderness and praying that the morning sun will bring some desperate relief to his aching body. Daylight finally breaks. The illusion of complete isolation is shattered as a stranger pulls up to the shore in a small boat. Logan watches anxiously, his heart racing as he realizes they share no common language, transforming this unexpected human encounter into a tense standoff in the wild. A local islander makes his intentions clear with sharp gestures, warning Logan that the vital coconuts on this beach are strictly off-limits. Deprived of this crucial source of fresh water, Logan faces a devastating dilemma, as his dehydrated body desperately needs hydration to survive the grueling heat. The final stern warning: the man leaves Logan alone with his smoldering campfire and a looming sense of danger. Yet with his survival hanging by a thread, Logan knows he must eventually risk defiance, as securing the forbidden resources is his only hope of staying alive. The oppressive heat weighs heavily on Logan as he sits on the sand, staring at the patrol officer watching him from afar, forbidden from harvesting coconuts or using his spear gun. Starvation leaves him no choice but to defy the strict orders and risk everything in the unforgiving ocean. With the officer's watchful eyes still lingering nearby, Logan retreats into the dense jungle to search for a loophole. He desperately sifts through a massive pile of discarded coconut husks, hoping to find any overlooked fruit that might offer a single drop of life-saving hydration. His persistence pays off as he salvages a few viable coconuts, cradling them tightly against his chest as he makes his way back along the shoreline. Every heavy step feels like a quiet act of rebellion, securing a temporary lifeline to keep his failing strength from vanishing completely. Survival requires more than just hydration. He needs warmth to endure the upcoming night. Logan walks along the edge of the dense jungle canopy, searching for dry driftwood to sustain his campfire, knowing it is his only shield against the damp cold and relentless insects. Finding a massive weathered log, he drags it across the hot sand toward his camp. This grueling task pushes his depleted body to its absolute limits, yet he refuses to stop, driven by the knowledge that a strong fire is his only hope of making it through the night. As the afternoon sun begins to dip, Logan decides to take his ultimate gamble for real sustenance. Armed with his spear gun and fins, he steps into the turquoise ocean waters, ready to brave the unpredictable currents and hidden predators of the deep reef to secure a meal. Merged in the crystal clear water, he moves with silent precision, aiming his spear gun at a target near the coral. His patience is rewarded with a sudden, successful strike on a small fish, providing a vital burst of protein that marks his first true victory over starvation. Encouraged by the catch, Logan quickly reloads his spear gun and scans the sandy seabed for another opportunity. Striking a second fish secures a crucial backup meal, turning his dangerous defiance of the island's rules into a highly successful hunt that guarantees his survival for another day. With his hard-won catch secured from the unforgiving ocean, Logan immediately sets to work on the shoreline, laying down fresh palm leaves to wrap the precious fish. The relentless tropical sun threatens to spoil his hard-earned victory, making every swift, protective fold a desperate race against time. Once the leaves are folded, Logan tightly binds the bundle with wild vines. Protecting this hard-won protein is only half the battle. He must also conceal it from patrolling eyes and opportunistic predators, ensuring his life-saving meal remains safe until he can build a fire. With the fish safely hidden, Logan shifts his focus to preparing the cooking tools, carefully carving dry bamboo into sharp skewers. As the sun begins its rapid descent, he works with feverish urgency, knowing these makeshift utensils are vital to roasting his meal efficiently over the embers. Before the skewers can be used, Logan takes the gutted fish down to the water, washing them thoroughly in the surging ocean wave. Salt water cleanses the meat and naturally seasons it, providing a small comfort to his exhausted body as he prepares for the final steps of cooking. While waiting for the fire to settle, Logan uses a heavy knife to crack open one of his salvaged coconuts. Every drop of this sweet nectar is incredibly precious on this desolate island, offering immediate hydration to soothe his parched throat and restore his rapidly failing strength. Finally, Logan presents his beautifully roasted fish on a fresh palm leaf, ready to eat. Staring at his first substantial meal in days, a profound sense of relief washes over him, proving that his daring defiance and sheer resourcefulness have successfully triumphed over starvation. The smoky aroma of roasted fish fills the damp air as Logan finally takes his first bite, a desperate triumph over starvation. Each swallow of the rich, bony meat breathes life back into his exhausted frame, proving that his relentless determination can conquer this brutal, unforgiving coast. As he sits by his makeshift table, Logan reflects on the grueling hours spent underwater, battling a debilitating illness and struggling to dive without a weight belt. Securing this vital nourishment was a near impossible feat. Yet this hard-won feast now fuels his spirit to face the oncoming dark. With the meal finished, Logan sits cross-legged beside the glowing campfire, feeling a sudden surge of renewed life. The desperate exhaustion that plagued his body begins to fade as the precious nutrients take hold. The warmth of the flames provides solace, sparking a fragile hope for another sunrise. That hope is quickly tested as Logan looks up at the dark sky, noting ominous clouds gathering overhead. While a sudden storm threatens a miserable, freezing night, it also promises vital freshwater to quench his deep thirst. He prepares himself mentally for whatever nature decides to unleash next. To ease his anxious mind, Logan patrols the shoreline, his flashlight beam revealing a bustling nighttime beach. He gently picks up a tiny, pale crab, observing its frantic movements. This small encounter offers a brief, fascinating distraction from his overwhelming isolation and the constant physical struggle of survival. Returning to camp, Logan cracks open one last coconut for a final hydrating reward before retreating to his small tent. With his belly full, his thirst quenched, and shelter secured, he can finally close his eyes. He prepares to rest his aching, weary body, ready for tomorrow's challenges. The heavy darkness of the island night finally yields to a cold, damp dawn as Logan crawls from his tiny shelter. His weary eyes immediately seek the fading embers of his campfire, desperate to keep the fragile warmth alive against the biting coastal chill that threatens to consume him. As the morning light slowly reveals the harsh landscape, Logan begins inspecting his remaining gear scattered across the damp sand, resources dwindling faster than anticipated. Every single tool and match becomes an invaluable lifeline in this unforgiving wilderness, where nature holds absolute power over his survival. The struggle intensifies when Logan shines his flashlight onto the sand, only to find a crucial piece of gear missing. A sudden wave of panic washes over him as he realizes the relentless rising tide has swept away his left-hand glove, leaving him dangerously exposed to the sharp coral. Staring out at the vast, unforgiving ocean, Logan feels the crushing weight of isolation and defeat. Without that protective glove, his ability to dive and forage for food is severely compromised, forcing him to confront the grim reality that the island is systematically stripping away his defenses. To make matters worse, the sky begins to bruise with heavy, dark clouds as a fierce rainstorm rapidly approaches the coast. Logan stands on the wet beach, realizing that the incoming deluge threatens to completely flood his campsite and ruin what little dry gear he has left. With no time to lose, Logan frantically tears down his tent as the first heavy drops begin to fall. Dismantling his only shelter means there is no turning back. He must pack his sodden belongings immediately to avoid a dangerous, freezing night in the tropical downpour. The relentless tide surges forward and swallows the beach entirely. Logan makes the difficult but necessary decision to abort the mission. Prioritizing survival over pride, he retreats into the safety of the mainland, knowing he fought hard against an island that nearly broke him. The relentless island refuses to grant Logan any peace, forcing him back onto its unforgiving shores to face his unresolved demons. With trembling hands and a fractured spirit, he struggles to erect a crude shelter, desperately using a piece of wild bamboo to salvage his failing gear before nightfall. This physical strain quickly takes a devastating toll, as a sudden, violent fever begins to ravage his remaining strength. Staring blankly into the camera, Logan admits his body is on the verge of total collapse, realizing how truly isolated he is on this desolate beach. The creeping sickness soon warps his perception, turning the simple task of standing upright into an agonizing battle against gravity. As his mind grows increasingly foggy under the tropical heat, the terrifying reality sets in that a single misstep in this weakened state could prove fatal. Desperate to regain control, Logan shields his eyes from the blinding sun and brandishes his survival knife, trying to force a sense of confidence he no longer possesses. Yet the heavy shadow of his failing health looms large, mocking his attempts to conquer the wild. His coordination continues to slip, nearly resulting in a severe foot injury as he paces along the tide line. The exhausting pressure to document his survival clashes bitterly with the immediate, raw demands of staying alive, leaving him vulnerable as the daylight begins to fade. Darkness finally blankets the coast. Logan huddles near the flickering embers of his campfire, his starved mind struggling to process basic thought. With his energy entirely depleted, surviving the freezing night becomes a brutal, agonizing test of endurance against the silent, creeping cold.